What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am Tiffany, aka Tilago, and here on this channel, I talk about all things faith, mindset, and lifestyle. So if you love all things faith, mindset, and lifestyle, but you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, then that's a little bit ironic. So I want you to go ahead and click the subscribe button down below right now. Do it right now so you don't even have to think about it later on. And click the bell beside it so you get notified whenever I post a new video here, okay? All right, so if you've been following me or if you just know me in real life, then you know that within the past like 6 months to a year, I've really hunkered down and really tried to focus on building and cultivating a true and lasting and productive relationship with God, right? So I've been learning more about Him, learning more about myself. All those good things have been happening, and there's been a lot of growth within me. And I'm just so grateful for it because I know that it is because I am seeking out God and seeking out these answers, and He's providing them to me. So there's going to be growth, right? So I want to, I wish I could tell you guys that this growth process and this journey has all been just like butterflies and rainbows, and I've just enjoyed every single moment of it. But that would be a lie, you guys. Like, growth, it doesn't feel good all the time, right? Like, we know that. We hear that all the time and we experience it in our own lives. So today I actually want to talk about uncomfortable seasons, but I'm going to take a little spin on it. And I want to talk about how there are two different uncomfortable seasons. So if you guys want to know more about that and hear about what kind of God has placed in my spirit and in my heart about these uncomfortable seasons in our lives, then make sure that you keep on watching. All right, so uncomfortable seasons. I believe that there are two different ways that we get into uncomfortable seasons. And so the first way, yes, this is 1 + 1 = 2. So the first way that we get into uncomfortable seasons is in those seasons where it is literally sent by God. God puts us in uncomfortable seasons, and these seasons are intended to produce growth within us. They're intended to develop us and build us and shape us into the person that He has created us to be, right? So in these seasons, you are actually being obedient to God. You're listening to Him. You're spending time with Him. Therefore, you're getting insight on what you need to be doing in your life. So you're going after Him and pursuing a relationship with Him. And He's like, okay, she or he is staying rooted in me. And as I can see that they really want to know more of me and know more about who they are in me, I'm going to continue to grow them and produce them and build them up, right? So those would be those necessary uncomfortable seasons. They don't feel good, but they are necessary, okay? So if there are necessary uncomfortable seasons, then there are also unnecessary uncomfortable seasons. So that's the way that we get into, or that's another way that we get into uncomfortable seasons. So this is when you are trying to do everything within your own power, within your own strength, and you're being like disobedient to what God is telling you to do. You're going and trying to do everything on your own. You're not saying like, God is my source, I'm going to follow after Him and let Him lead and guide me. You're like, I'm going to go do this, and maybe if God want to show up, He can show up, okay? No, those seasons cause you to be uncomfortable as well, but they're unnecessary because God didn't put you through them, right? So these are those seasons, like I said, where you're trying to do everything within your own power. What happens in those seasons is you feel uncomfortable because you're in a space where you were never intended to be. God never wanted you to be in that space. So you end up wasting time, wasting energy, wasting resources, wasting all kinds of things because you were in that season without your source. You don't have an infinite amount of those things that you need. You're not rooted to the source. You're trying to do it in your own strength, okay? I hope that makes sense. So God will let you, He will allow you, He will not put you through it, but He will allow you to go through these unnecessary, uncomfortable seasons. And then once you get to that point to where you're like, wow, I have nothing else. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Then He's like, okay, are you ready to come chit chat with me? And if you do, go back to your source. He will graciously open His arms and let you in. But then you will go through a necessary, uncomfortable season because He's like, all right, you went through the unnecessary one. You didn't even have to do that. But in order for me to produce growth, now you've got to go through the unnecessary or the necessary, uncomfortable season that I wanted you to go through in the first place. Okay, so like I said, you end up wasting time, energy, resources, all kinds of things over in this area when you're trying to do those things in your own power. Okay, so you may not believe me, and that's totally fine, but I'm going to read a verse that kind of touches on this more, and it's a familiar verse, so let's get into it. It is John 15, 1 through 2. John 15, verses 1 through 2. So let me read it to you. Bible's right here. Let's get it, okay? It says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this up on the screen for a second. Read it. Okay, come back to me. Okay, so from this verse, we see that this is Jesus talking, by the way. He says, I am the true vine and my Father is the gardener. Basically, he's talking about himself. God exists in three persons, right? God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, okay? So he's like, I am the source, I'm the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. So I'm also the gardener. I'm the one who's cultivating you, who's giving you what you need, who gives you the resources you need, who gives you the nourishment you need. All of that is coming from me, but you have to stay rooted in me to get it, right? The next verse, he says, he cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit. So this would be you going along that path by yourself, not being obedient, trying to do everything in your own strength, saying like, I don't want to be connected to the source. This is you not being productive. So if you are not being productive, that means you're not bearing fruit. So then he's going to cut you off. So there's cutting that's happening. When you get cut, it is uncomfortable. Okay. So that's the first type of cut and the first type of uncomfortable season, right? That's that unnecessary one. But let's keep reading. He says, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. So this would be when you are actually staying rooted in God and he's sending you through necessary uncomfortable seasons. Because guess what? Pruning means to cut away, to clear away, right? So there's still cutting happening and it's still uncomfortable, right? So in both of these different seasons, the uncomfortable feeling is still coming from a cut, but it is a matter of whether you're getting cut completely off as a branch that's getting cut off because you're trying to do things in your own power and strength and you're not productive, or if you're just getting things cut out of your life or cut away from you because you're staying rooted to the source and you just need to grow and bear more fruit and be more productive. Okay, so I hope that makes sense here, especially with this verse. I hope that kind of illustrated it and explained it to you. So I basically just want to ask you, and I want you to ask yourself, where are you uncomfortable in your life right now? What area of your life are you uncomfortable? And ask yourself, how did you get there? How did you get there? Is it because you are actually being obedient to God? You're staying rooted in who he is and you're trying to chase after a life that he wants you to live and pursue? Or is it because you're trying to do things in your own strength? You didn't even seek him and ask him what to do and you're just trying to do it in your own strength. Ask yourself that. That should be a journaling moment for you guys this week. Write down, how did you get into these uncomfortable seasons? Because I'm sure that many of us are uncomfortable in different areas of our lives, right? Then if it is in fact that you try to do things on your own, in your own strength and on your own will and way, then just seek God. But you got to seek him wholeheartedly. So you got to be like, God, I really do want more of you. This is not for my own personal gain. This is for your glory, that I want to come and seek you and have that necessary uncomfortable season rather than an unnecessary one where I'm wasting time and energy and resources and everything else, right? So ask yourself that and then do what needs to be done. Like, he is the source. So go back to him. He wants to have a relationship with you. He wants to lead you and guide you. He wants to show you what you need to do next. He wants to show you who you are supposed to be. So just go to the source. I mean, come on, baby. Just go to the source, okay? So I just wanted to, I guess, I don't know if this is an encouragement or if this is a convicting video today, but whichever one it is, I want to just come over here and talk about it because I feel like I've been convicted with it. I think that too many of us hear this phrase of like, well, if you're going through uncomfortable seasons, if you're going through tough times, if this is happening in your life and it doesn't feel right, then it's just because God's trying to grow you, where it's not always that. Sometimes it's simply because you are not being obedient. You're doing something that God never told you to do. Therefore, you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable season. God doesn't want you there, okay? He doesn't. So I just encourage you to do that thing that I just said and go back to the source. And then whenever you are in these uncomfortable seasons, if it is definitely from God, if you know that you're chasing after him and you have been obedient to what he wants you to do, then be encouraged that this is simply because it's time for you to grow. It's time for you to develop and become more of who you are called to be. And we're always going to be growing, okay? Always. As long as we live, there's always going to be room for us to grow, and God is always going to be trying to grow us. So we just have to be in the position to do that, to allow him to do that, okay? So that is all I wanted to talk about today. So I hope it did make sense. Please do comment down below and let me know what you thought. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back, okay? I'm sorry that I missed last week. God didn't give me anything to talk about. So I was not about to force it, okay? But I will be back whenever he leads me because I am following him with everything in my life right now. So catch me in the next video. And always remember, above all else, spread love.